Well, lads, what's the crack? We're just going to give our thoughts before we start watching The Last of Us Season 2. It was out on, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, was it? So we're getting around to it now on the Monday. We're just going to give our thoughts and expectations to start with. It'll only be about 5 minutes cut up, and then we'll give our thoughts after we watch it as well, and it'll all be put into one video. So, thoughts personally for me and expectations. Uh, I'm thinking, I'm expecting them to rewrite kind of Abby's story a bit.
Well, remember, like we know the some people won't have any knowledge of the second. If not, some a lot of people will only watch a TV show.
Yeah,
There's a good section. There's a lot of people that will know the story and are nearly jumping ahead. And then I think a lot of audiences just like casuals going, "Oh, this new Last of Us program, let's give it a watch." That's really interesting. Season two's out, maybe more of the same. But for people who are aware of the game, we know there's some very, very controversial things going to happen, and
very sketchy moments that we
I'm
need
wary
to.
just even like making this that I don't want to like nearly spoil it on people who've never watched it. You know what I mean? But also
Yeah,
talk in a way that other people will know what I'm talking about. So we get a few interesting deaths, so to speak, and an introduction of a few interesting characters that will take the limelight. And that's the most diplomatic way I think I can say that. And that's what I'm most interested in: the introduction of new characters and how
yeah,
the season's going to take over and
that's
kind of
fair.
fold.
That's
But
fair.
it's the new actors. That's what I'm the most interested in. And also, I do think, just my last point,
Mm.
from what I just said, a lot of people, there's a massive audience. Obviously, it's a video game adaptation, but I know a lot of people who have just seen it advertised. Remember, this is a big budget kind of HBO
Mm.
TV show and big actors in it. You know what I mean? Pedro Pascal and I can't remember the girl's name now. For God's sake, the girl who plays Ella,
Something.
Bella Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey.
Um, so they have just watched it, on the TV. But the second season, I'm really, really interested because I was so torn on the story of the second game, how it's adapted. If they try and be clever and like retell things in a different way, if they change things, who knows? Because I know they already said this is not a spoiler. They've already said it's renewed for a third season, so
Yeah.
it kind of makes me think maybe because there's obviously only two games, so third season. I'm thinking maybe they halved this season into two halves to try and help with pacing and storytelling. But
I think my opinion on that is I think they've basically done season two, and I think the third season you can basically put it down as 2.5, a continuation. Obviously, just to
yeah,
clarify, me, Rob, we've watched, we've seen the games, and we obviously seen season one. So going into this, we are comparing different scenes and characters to obviously how they were in the game, um, both aesthetically and like character development wise. So we've played these games and we've obviously seen other people play them and give their opinions. Hence, we're obviously apprehensive about how they're going to do season two and 2.5 season three because we weren't expecting. I wasn't expecting actually a season three to be announced already before this one even aired.
oh yeah,
So I was thinking they're just going to try and one and done it, but they have a very good writer who wrote Chernobyl.
Craig Mason,
Craig Mason, amazing writer. You should check out. Even he has podcasts talking
Crypt
about,
Notes.
yeah, talking about the how he wrote Chernobyl and how he got the characters and the way he designed stuff. So so I do, as a writer, he's an amazing writer. So to bring him in on something like this to try and somewhat not fix it, but maybe alter it in a way that flows better for television. He's the man for the job. So
I was going to just do my main personal thing for this season for myself.
mm,
I think that the second game, I think underneath it all the controversy and everything else, there was a story there that I thought was interesting and a good story. And I do wonder now in hindsight, and as Adam said, there's a great writer there who was obviously wrote the first season. He's now like aware of the characters and the story. He's wrote other things as well. He's very good. And can he kind of like extract the things, you know what I mean, and maybe rejig a few things that could really propel the story of the second game forward.
mm.
because I think there was a good there was a story there somewhere, but it just got muddled up. I think with just kind of pace, maybe things were shown too early, and you just there was a good story there somewhere. But I'm really interested to see. So this is the first episode, so it should be. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty similar to the first, the start of the game. I'm
Yeah.
assuming. So
But
I'm going to
either
watch it
way,
now.
that's our little expectations and thoughts just before we go in and watch it. So we'll bring you back when we've watched the whole episode. It's a full hour long, so we'll
Yeah,
take in a lot and take notes in our heads about what's happening. So we'll bring you
yeah.
back when we watch it. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Well, a few seconds for yous. Right, lads, what's the crack? My name's Adzi. I'm just going to put this as a little disclaimer in the middle of this video of us giving our thoughts and a review of the first episode of The Last of Us Season 2. Um, we've watched it, we gave a review, and in this next segment, uh, we'll be talking about it while the trailer's on the background, things like that. But just so you know, throughout this whole review of the whole series of Season 2, we will also be talking about the video game, The Last of Us Part 2. So if anyone has not played the video game and does not want spoilers, please click away now because there will be spoilers from both the video game and from the actual show from the episode that we have watched as of current. So just a word of warning. Hope you guys enjoy the video, but just a disclaimer, spoilers are ahead. Please enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Right, lads, welcome back. We actually watched this. This is being recorded a day later from when we actually watched the episode because we didn't have time to finish the recording. But we've done a bit of a recap and we are going to talk about what we've seen and our opinions. So to start off with, I'll put the question out. What do we think of the casting of Abby? In the first couple of scenes, she looks to be actually portrayed as a bit smaller compared to the video game. Just thoughts on that. What do you think?
Well, yeah, she is smaller, so
But that's what I mean.
um,
What's your thoughts on it?
I know that's. I think it's a weird it's a bit of a controversial topic from the game itself because I think Neil Druckmann I want to say come out and really defended his choice of Abby and her size and that because some people were kind of skeptical saying why is she so big, it's her whole. I'm pretty sure at one point in the game, because she's so unusually big and muscular, that's how Ellie identifies her
Yeah,
when she gets captured. You know what I mean? She's like, oh, well, it can only be Abby. Like that's how much of her personality is wrapped up in her body and her quest for vengeance, whatever. And then I kind of knew they'd have to pick a smaller actress, but I didn't really mind it. I don't understand this emphasis on making her so strong. But anyway,
mm.
but yeah, I mean, she seems okay. We didn't get to see much of her. She just kind of was introduced.
Excuse me.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, not
but
many scenes were in the first episode.
she's literally in the very first and the very last scene. That was it,
Yeah, that's it.
isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
Ryan, what do you
but it's a
think?
good setup. It's a good setup for only being in those kind of two scenes. Because look, it's how she's portrayed in this. I feel is it's a kind of a near more human side to it.
Mm.
Like it's more
Yeah.
emotional seeing it, and because it's you kind of get the emotion from it. You see her obviously sitting over her father's grave and her getting angry over it, saying that we need to um, go kill Joel, and you kind of get the impression, and then you see her stand up, and the size difference between her and the male actress beside her, and you're like, it's very starkly different than the game, but it's not something where you're like, oh well, that shouldn't like it shouldn't be right or whatever. It's his own kind of spin on it, but as well, you can still feel the emotion through it as well.
Yeah.
You don't. It's not out of place.
No,
It's
it
not
actually
completely out of
suits it a
place
bit more.
whatsoever.
It nearly fits more.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
It's interesting. Like when you said that, and the fact, I feel like they consciously at the very start, you just like the male actor standing over is like it's framed that she does look very small,
yeah.
and
And
I
then
do
even when
think,
she does stand up, she still looks very small in comparison because he's
yeah,
probably 6'1", 6'2"
yeah,
in comparison.
and I wonder. is this a different, as you said, different take on Abby? Like now she looks a lot more vulnerable, whereas in the game she doesn't look vulnerable at all. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? She's the opposite. She's something that happened to her. And she's nearly dedicated her life on just vengeance, and she's like strong, and she's kicking the shit out of people.
Hmm.
And you know, it was like
I
two
for
sides of
one,
the same coin with Ellie and Abby. Do you know what I
I
mean? Like
for one
Ellie was
am.
like stronger, quicker and stuff, but Abby was the fucking tank.
I'm a lot more interested in this Abby than the game Abby.
Yes. Yes.
And
Why she's
Because
vulnerable.
yeah, I think it
because
portrays a better
she's
side to her.
human.
Yeah.
Well, I
She
mean, she was human in the game as well.
she was human in the game, but it was the way she's portrayed that it didn't really feel like she was human. To me, it felt like she was a bit of kind of like a lab rat that she was kind of fucking created, just pumped with steroids, and she was absolutely just ripped out of it. And
So you just our body size kind of turns you off her, like.
yeah, it doesn't seem. I know there is people like that. Of course, I'm not going to say it's not realistic, but it doesn't seem realistic for the setting. You know what I mean? You know, we're in like a
Yeah.
post-apocalyptic setting. Like, how the fuck did you have the time to get so jacked in that
Like
time?
people are fighting for food.
Yeah, you're fighting for food, and where she's on a fucking full protein diet, fucking 17 steaks a day. It's like, bro, what's this like? But yeah,
Yeah.
to stop
Yeah.
going off topic, that's for me. This is a more relatable Abby because she does look human, or more human and more relatable. Just someone you'd meet on the street, like, oh yeah, look, there's Abby Grant.
One
And I
thing
think
I thought was interesting, just I don't think they actually, for people who never played the video game, the very first shot is Abby. We don't even know who Abby is if you don't play the game. She's just a random girl looking at a giraffe standing beside a grave, and you can make no connection. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because you've played the game, we know the connection with the giraffes. Because she's like looking at giraffe like solemn, going after. Look, she's feeling sad, reflecting. And the first one, Ellie and Joel sees the giraffe outside the window, and it's like this kind of beautiful moment. So it's like a juxtaposition between them two. But also, Abby never actually says who her dad was, which I thought was a bit strange. She's like, "We have to kill Joel. He
mm,
killed someone." But I think if you never played the game, you go, well, who was her dad? I just go, well, I'm assuming he was like a person from the hospital because he
yeah,
killed tons of people. But I don't think they didn't even do a recap, which I thought was interesting because I'm like, we know what's going on because we played the games.
yeah. They're kind of just
But if I
expecting
only,
you to walk straight into it, knowing what happened.
it doesn't actually describe. Maybe they might do a flashback. I don't know, soon or whatever. Because he killed tons of people. Like, it could have been a normal, like random, person
Yeah.
that he killed, like an
Excuse me.
NPC, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like it would in the game. I thought that was a bit strange, but I don't know if it really matters. Well, it does matter, doesn't it?
It does
It
kind
is
of matter.
significant.
Story wise, like, especially
I
for
thought that.
people who haven't played the games. Obviously, we're up to date on the games. We know kind of what happens. Hence, we're watching
yeah,
this in the expectations. Our expectations are based off the game and how are they going to change. Whereas if
Like
someone goes into this like, oh, let's look on Netflix. Oh, look, Last of Us. Yeah, this looks interesting. You wouldn't have a clue what you're like about these characters because we already know what happens. But
they'll probably come back in and maybe tell later on, but it's weird how they say, like, they give Abby's motivation straight away. She wants to kill Joel to get revenge,
yeah,
but you don't know really what for exactly. Just he killed somebody belonging to her, and you don't know who though.
yeah,
And I think maybe that will be then properly described, down the road to like tie the story together. Because they throw in a
um,
random thing as well. I'm not going to go into that just yet, but
mm.
one.
um, then probably on to the next. Well, in between a small little filler bit was the I have to say uh some of the best what would you call it, like scenic views and scenic production on the way into Wyoming is where they're situated. It says it at the start. Obviously, this is for people who have watched the episode to listen to this. It was really beautifully done. The cinematography on the way into it, kind of showing where they're situated in between, like in like a valley in between two mountains and that. I thought that was
Mm.
really beautifully done. Just as a side note,
Yeah, looks
um,
good.
Then probably then obviously the next bit we do see, and the bit which irks me, is we see Ellie um basically in a scrap, having a fight, basically training um with another guy, and she just, to me, she still looks like she's 15, but at this stage of where we are in the story, she's meant to be 19, nearly pushing 20 years of age. Now, that's not down to the writing, that's down to the casting, which can't be helped because, look, she was cast for the first season. She's a very recognizable person that you couldn't really cast a new Ellie and say, oh, we'll just fucking, water off a duck's back, we'll see what happens. Maybe people won't notice. It's like, no, no, people would notice. Um, but it's just a thing that still irks me. It's always in the back of my head. I'm getting more used to it, but in the back of my head, it's always there. Any thoughts on that between us?
Um, Personally,
Hmm.
springboarding off that, a thing that I'm not a big fan of with this Ellie is I didn't like Ellie in the second game.
No,
Ellie's one of my favorite characters in games, and from the first one, how she kind of grows, you know what I mean, throughout the entire game, and she goes through so much, fucked up stuff. Like she ends up kind of like nearly maturing beyond her years, and the jump, obviously, there's like nearly 10 years in between the graphics now, but the jump from Ellie from the first game to I think there's like a 5 year jump in the game,
yeah,
so she's like 19, but even her, she acts very mature. Like she's like obviously very traumatized, but that's why she acts so mature like in the game.
yeah.
This Ellie's making like fart jokes. And you know what I mean? It's just like, oh,
Spoiled
let's
brat
kill the
vibes.
clickers. Let's kill the clickers. And like,
Mm,
all these weird. It's like that's something like an 8-year-old would do.
yeah,
And it's nothing against it. And when she's screaming out in the open, I'm infected in that. I'm like, this is where I'm a little bit like I know you're adapting a game for a screen, but like, how far are you going away from it? Because this doesn't feel like the same Ellie I've watched or
played through.
played as or seen
Mm,
through that game. Like this is a totally different. This is like, you know, very very immature
nearly like a spin off
kind of
Ellie.
like even for example, I know they're trying to make her look like a badass and stuff when her and Dina go in to kill the clickers and stuff like that. It still doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. I know it's like not going to say like girl boss. Now I know it's like I want to be my own person. I'm a young woman. I want to be independent or whatever. I do get it, but it doesn't make any sense.
No,
Like what they just done there makes no sense. Like the Ellie in the game would never do that because it's like, why would I just go in there and risk my life to what? Be a girl boss kind of. It's like it doesn't make any sense. Like
yeah,
you just get everyone to go in and kill them if you want, but she's headstrong enough, but she's not stupid. And I felt like this one was a bit. The clickers, I know there's a bit of a something different, but clickers in the game are like they can one shot you. I'm pretty sure
yeah.
they're supposed to be. You don't. You have to be really really careful, and these two just make a mockery of them, and it's just it's just weird. I don't know if that was just me or not. I don't know.
Did feel a bit like that. Then they introduced like a, what would they're not exactly zombies, but what would you call like
Oh,
the,
I actually looked it up. They're a thing I think in the second game.
oh, are they?
I think they're called stalkers. I think.
Okay.
But this thing they're doing, not trying to jump. See the way like these are a bit more intelligent or whatever.
Yeah.
This sub story I think is new. This whole like it's kind of they're nearly more intelligent. They're nearly keeping it. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
not
they
just
they plan, think,
mindless.
and strategize.
Somewhat. I don't know if it's that far, but they can kind of like hide and stuff like that. And you know what I mean? They're not completely stupid. They're a little bit more intelligent, and it. I feel like they're gonna change from the game a little bit to see like how you get infected and stuff like that. Now, because in the game and that it's just biting people, I
Yeah,
think. But now it's like spores. So once you inhale these things, I believe that's what I mean. It's a
Mm.
new kind of danger. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Um, and I suppose that leads us into the next main scene, which was uh straight from the actual game trailer as well, which was the was it a New Year's dance or New Year's like town hall dance thing?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
event,
That's
which,
it was. I found it interesting because that whole shot was like it's pretty. famous because that was when Sony showed it at E3.
Mm.
They literally recreated the whole thing. They spent their entire budget on that. That was a massive set piece, and they recreated the whole thing, shot one for one,
Yeah.
which is interesting when you're adapting a game, but you keep most of the game. But I don't know. I kind of liked it.
It was
You
interesting. It
know.
was well shot. It was actually well done.
Mm.
Yeah.
But one thing again, it backs up what I said. The second point we made about the actor. The actor for Dina, or Tina. What's her actual actor's name?
Dina.
Does anyone know?
Actor name, I'm not
No.
sure. I know her name is Dina in it.
Yeah, Dina. But
She's like
she's a fantastic actor. Like she was carrying that scene.
carrying
Like,
the whole. She's going to do a lot of heavy lifting because
yeah,
I
just
you
I
know,
did, go on.
going back to my point where I was saying I find Ellie so immature and she looks young.
Mm,
That scene where I keep nearly thinking she's her babysitter
yeah,
because Dina acts, I think, a small bit more mature, not entirely, but a small bit,
yeah,
and looks a bit older. And then you got Ellie who looks young, really young, and then acts immature as well. I keep in my head, I'm thinking there's a weird age gap here. It looks like she's a child still, and she's acting like a child.
yeah,
So it's gonna now maybe they're doing it on purpose that like by the end of the show, by the end of the season, she's going to be a totally different Ellie, you know,
yeah.
which I'm thinking, you know,
I'm expecting as the season goes on, because obviously it's not exactly a spoiler. They've already licensed for a season three, so I presume by the stage we get to nearly the end of season two, the Ellie we expect from the game, the kind of knows it, like, is very strategic, very mature. We'll get to that stage, I think, by the end of this season. But I think we will have a few more episodes of like girly jokes and like fart jokes and
I
stupid
don't mind
humor.
that as much. I don't mind that. It's just the character. Like if it changes, then it's okay. If it's just her character, then it's a little bit. I'm not too sure.
Mm,
And from what little I've seen, we know for a long part of this show, Ellie's gonna have to be the star.
yeah,
And I'm looking at that now, thinking ahead, going,
Ugh.
I don't know if she can lead.
I don't
I don't
think.
know if she like when you think about every scene she's in,
Yeah,
it's like I'm like usually the star of a show when you think of even a star of a film, a lot of people can't be lead men or lead women. They just don't have that charisma, even if not, you know. And if you don't have it, then you just the film becomes so flat. And I'm thinking, anytime Ellie's on the screen, like even Dina, for example, Dina's actress, I felt she stole all the scenes the two of them were in.
yeah,
And I'm thinking that's just the two of them. And I think most of the time when it's Ellie and Joel, Joel steals the scenes.
Yeah.
And when Ellie now has to like literally do like extreme heavy lifting all by herself, but literally nobody else around. We know it, you know, at some point in time. I don't know how that's going to transpire. I don't know if she can do it. It's going to be very interesting. Maybe she can. She's going to blow me away. I don't know, but
yeah. I'm not gonna say she can't, but I'm not. I'm 90% sure I don't think she can, but I'm not. I'm willing to be surprised to see if she has it in her arsenal to kind of make that jump, make that leap. But I don't feel it. I already don't feel it, and we've had some major moments with Ellie. I still don't really feel it. But again, we'll have to see how the rest of the season transpires. But nothing really else after that. It kind of ended at the very end just with the spores kind of moving in like the pipe where they were.
one really interesting scene was a therapy scene.
Yeah, actually, we glossed over that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was actually a very good scene. It was Joel had actually killed her husband, hadn't he?
He doesn't in the game.
So that's okay. So this is just for the show because I actually can't
Yeah,
remember
I
this.
don't know why, because I looked it up and I was like, who the hell is Eugene? And that name sounds familiar, but apparently he died of old age, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
But in this, I think he's like a doctor or something. I'm not sure what they're trying to insinuate. I've no idea.
mm,
But then he turned around in this and be like, "Oh, you killed him or whatever," and you know,
I'll
it's
never forgive you for it.
yeah. And I do understand they're trying to get a lot of this emotion and teams out in the air,
Yeah,
so let them just, kind of just marinate and hang up there. And when it's time to, you know, people will be able to recall these emotions and teams fairly easily when the time comes. Try not to spoil anything,
mm,
because there was a scene as well where it's actually the final. I think it's the final scene right before Abby showed up, where remember Joel is playing the guitar
yeah,
outside. They'll probably come back to this and say it later on. But there's a really important scene in the game where Joel is playing the guitar and Ellie walks past, but they talk
yeah,
and they basically talk about the night. And I think Joel kind of confronts her, and he's just kind of like, to be honest, like if I had to do it all over again, I would
yeah,
do the exact same thing, kind of thing. And that's kind of like a pivotal thing that I think it's just for Ellie and that. But it's look, we'll see what way to go with it.
But that's even just going off. Then I suppose I'm gonna be making notes throughout each episode when we do watch it together. What would you give this episode? Say like out of 10. Obviously, it's a broad
Um,
spectrum because we're not going to
I
say like
I give it a seven or
cinematography.
a 7.5.
Yeah, I
Seven
was
point
thinking the
five.
exact same.
We'll
Yeah,
do it as unanimous. So we'll go with 7. I think I was going to go with maybe 7. So 7.5 sounds pretty good.
because I find it weird that I believe there's going to be 7 episodes,
Yeah,
and I'm always thinking when you've got 7 episodes, like it's not really a long time. When you consider the second game is probably about 30 hours long, 35 of just story. It's a long game, so I don't think they're going to finish this in one go. And then when you filler in the first episode, I'm thinking, yeah, like you are just trying to get to a point. That's all. Because
yeah,
remember, the whole point when they're in that supermarket, that doesn't like think about really what happens. It only introduces one new element, which is this little zombie thing.
mm,
But the whole clicker thing of them killing them, it doesn't really lead to anything. They're just trying to show, oh, Ellie's now competent. That's it.
yeah,
But it takes about 15 minutes, 16 minutes just to introduce one key element that's going to drive the story forward. The rest of it is just, a bit of padding.
yeah. Like
You're
them
trying
doing.
to add in,
Yeah,
oh, here's an Easter egg of a dog because that's in the game. So
yeah,
like, there's an Easter egg, and here's Ellie not being competent. But it takes a good while,
yeah.
just to get that one thing covered. And I'm
Excuse me.
thinking
Mm.
you're just trying to, get to a certain point. Like that's the first episode gone. There's only 6 more. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that's every if you're trying to get the whole season done or whole game covered, like you are. You know what I mean? I mean,
you have to use your time
he,
wisely in this.
oh, so if you're trying to get through the whole thing in in 7 episodes, a very important moment that happened in the first 2 minutes. Never mind, like probably the third episode.
Yeah.
So
But yeah,
yeah,
that was The Last of Us episode 1. I think it's out every Sunday from what I read at like 9 o'clock. So we'll upload these on a Monday from now on. Obviously, we just didn't have time to do it yesterday. But yeah, from now on, expect a video on the first day of the week on a Monday of The Last of Us. And yeah, I have no. We don't really know expectations wise what's going to happen in the next episode. It did cut at the very end showing Abby walking through the trees, and in the same scene from season 1 at the very end when they just see Wyoming, it's the same scene but in the dark, and obviously Abby is they're going down to kill Joel, or so we think. Obviously, that's our main objective. So we can surmise from that at least in the next episode or two, that that major scene will probably take place. That's it from us. We'll see you next Monday for the next episode of this, and yeah, see you guys later. Good luck.
look.
Look.